Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. The 0.01%, not the 1%, the 0.01%. That's what I personally think Tszyu is. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Now understand this. You probably say, man, what in the world could make a guy like Hood Champion say Tszyu isn't just the top 1%, but the 0.01%? Well, it's the same thing when I look at guys like Gervonta Davis, Canelo, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hearns, Duran. There's something inside of a fighter that isn't developed overnight. It's something that I think all fighters are born with, but the right person can help to cultivate that quality that can create that separation between elite fighters and special fighters. And I just happen to feel that way about Tszyu. When you look at his dad, Tszyu, and what his dad was able to do in the sport of boxing, coming from Russia, very, very difficult exterior, very hard man, you know what I'm saying? And when it came to his sons, right, Tim and his brother Nikita, right, Tszyu was very, very hard with those guys. From the love he's shown that came from within to how he molded and raised those guys and put them through grueling training sessions. But nonetheless, it did something in Tszyu. It made Tszyu into a champion. Now, I understand there are some people out there who still feel Tszyu, I don't know, they may not take him serious. But for me, I take him serious. And I think Tszyu, it's unfortunate that he's not getting the opportunity to fight Virgil Ortiz. He beat Tony Harrison, then he had two more opponents he clipped, then he went in there with Fundora, right? For some reason, to this day, there are some people who don't give Tszyu any credit. Why, I don't know. And that Tszyu fight was just one of those situations where his corner failed him. And then you see still through the fight he was pushing and still landing. But really, man, to see the way that blood was kind of water falling into his eyes, then he had the alien in front of him. It was a difficult fight, but he still managed to fight blindly and force the judges to kind of be unsure what direction they wanted to go, because you could see that the fight was close and it was a split decision. Win for Fundora. Fundora got lucky in that fight. But I really felt for Tszyu and him going forward and fighting Virgil Ortiz. At least for some boxing fans, they would have said if Tszyu had the opportunity to fight him, would have beaten him, they would have probably said Tszyu is the truth. He beat Virgil Ortiz. I'm already telling you, Tszyu is the truth. I don't think Virgil Ortiz, he's got the name, he's got the knock, he got the KO percentage, but Tszyu is not the same, in my opinion, he's not the same fighter that he was before he got sick with rhabdo. But nonetheless, if he would have gotten the opportunity, I think he would have knocked Virgil Ortiz out. I do. It's the Virgil Ortiz who fought in those last two fights. That guy's not the answer to getting there and think he can put the bing-bings on Tszyu. And what made it even interesting is the fact that the individual, Tszyu, Tszyu's dad, who helped to turn Tszyu from that top 1% of an elite fighter to becoming a special fighter, the 0.01%, right? His dad was back in his training camp in a special situation where they met up in Thailand. And his dad was helping him, training him, hitting pads, and putting him through all the grueling training sessions and things that Tim had experienced as a young man. Those sessions and the mentorship and everything else that helped make him into the champion that he became. But the one thing that Tim Tszyu said, and he noticed about his dad isn't his dad's soft now, because of course his dad returned to Russia and has 2 more kids, and those kids of course are growing up a lot different than how Tim Tszyu grew up. Tim Tszyu was growing up with his dad was an active professional fighter and a vicious fighter inside and outside of the ring, and with Kostya Tszyu, he had something inside him that was vicious, and that's the same thing that he showed in his expressions. Now, Tim Tszyu looked at that and he appreciated his dad for what he did and what he put him and his brother through. And for Tim Tszyu, I personally think when he gets the opportunity to unleash on his next opponent, I think Tim Tszyu is going to tranquilize the person. He has a lot to prove. And you could see that he has that pride in his last name, the pride in being an Australian. And he recognizes, right? This is what got my attention. Tim Tszyu said he recognized, and he had to be honest and admit that in Australia, a lot of the quality of opponents over there, when you compare that worldwide, are mediocre at best. Now, remember, he's comparing that worldwide. So he's not trying to bad talk his fellow countrymen. He's just saying when you look at boxing globally and what Australia has to offer and what this top 1%, 0.01%, he was like, he's not really going to find it in Australia. So him going out and about and abroad and being able to travel and spar and fight and to be able to still perform at the highest level, that has done a lot for his confidence. And the fight he had with Fundora, he recognizes there's nothing that he did wrong in that fight. Okay, he just got a bad cut, and it was bad. I haven't heard anybody out here say that what Tim Tszyu endured in that fight was something that he could have easily pushed through. Now, that shit was bad. Probably one of the bloodiest fights that I think we've seen. I think outside that Badu Jack fight was bloody as hell too, boy. But it looked like someone had been, slaughtered in there. But the fact that he's looking at that and he's real about things, and I mean, he's not going to just sit in Australia and think he's just going to get better working with his trainer. And he has his godfather who he's been spending a lot of time with since his dad back in 2016 or 17 returned to Australia. To Russia. He realizes he's got to bring in the best talent for quality sparring, and he has to fight the best fighters, and which means he has to get outside of Australia. But he also understands that if he's fighting in Australia, that he's the big money man. Now, when you talk to Tim Tszyu about who he's going to fight next, he's unsure if he's going to fight a Crawford, Spence, Jamel Charlo, Fundora, Ortiz. But he says one thing he knows is all of those guys are on his hit list. And I like that name of fighters: Crawford, Spence, Charlo, Fundora, Ortiz. Those are great names for Tszyu. And it's good to hear him talking about fighting those guys. Those are all quality opponents. He's not looking to put duck sauce on the fried rice. This man is looking to, just like the Kangaroos that got in Australia, just kind of jump into the next biggest fight with the biggest name possible. And that's what I like. So Tim Tszyu, we should probably start calling him Tim the Marsupial Tszyu, because my man is sitting here, man, just trying to bounce around all over the place into the biggest fights in whatever part of the world he has to go to prove that he really is the true definition of the Aussie, oi 0.01%. And I like that. But remember, he has a younger brother named Nikita. I keep trying to tell y'all, man, he's undefeated after 9 professional fights. And I think Tim Tszyu's brother, just same way I like Tim Tszyu, I think his brother, man, y'all better pay attention, Nikita Tszyu. Go on out there and start following Nikita Tszyu. Nikita Tszyu is the truth, man. It is what it is. But we'll see what happens with him. I think Tim Tszyu is a different breed. I think his father raised him right, raised his brother right, as far as in the world of boxing. And the godfather did a great job bringing them along and helping to cultivate what the father already created and those natural qualities that were already he was born with. So let's see what happens with Tim Tszyu once he's fully healed and gets the clearance from the doctor to return to the ring. A Crawford fight would be great. A Spence fight, I think, is a little bit, because Crawford is a tough fight, man. Spence, I think, is definitely winnable for sure. Fundora, I think he knocks him out. Virgil Ortiz, I think he knocks him out. And then Jamel Charlo, I think Jamel Charlo could be up shit creek, especially if he tries to come and fight Tim Tszyu. This may actually work out because Charlo's been inactive. Tim Tszyu had to sit out more longer than he wanted for the cut to heal up. I mean, Charlo, Spence, and Virgil Ortiz are the type of opponents I would like to see Tszyu get in the ring with, but Spence won't fight him. Spence is going to fight Fundora. If he beats Fundora, which I don't think he will, then Spence, I'm sure, will duck Tim Tszyu. And who knows what he'll do, but we just got to wait and see. Anyway, Tim Tszyu, working with his dad, very unfortunate that he wasn't able to go right into the fight with Virgil Ortiz because he would have had his dad there in his camp and in his corner. But now, hey, it is what it is. You got to reset, but keep the same mentality, the same hunger, and continue being a different breed of fighter and understanding that you must find a way to continue to be that 0.01%, because being the top 1% isn't enough in the sport of boxing if you want to be recognized as a pound-for-pound great. You got to be like that handful of fighters you find when you go across the world and you see there's a lot of top 1% outstanding fighters, but there's only a few of that top 0.1%. And Tim Tszyu wants to make sure that he can be seen as that guy. And I just think he's a problem for anybody at 154. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.